microphone, is that okay? You in the back row, please speak up if I don't. Well, good morning everybody, welcome to Aalborg, I guess I should say, being Danish. Although I flew here yesterday, as most of you probably also did. Welcome anyway, and good morning. I've been asked to give sort of an overview of what we're doing in PSI in Denmark in the broad field, so I'm not going to restrict myself to geospatial data or Inspire related issues. I will touch upon a few things, but within 15 minutes I don't have time to delve all that deeply into things. So, my agenda for the next, I guess, 14 minutes is a very brief definition of what I'm talking about when I talk about PSI and open data. Then how we're seeing things in Denmark, and then our two major initiatives. Well, I'll get into them later. So what's PSI? PSI is all public sector data. The definition that we use, it covers everything except a very few things that are exempt, such as data related to physical persons, sensitive business data which can't be divulged, or national security data, and stuff that isn't ours. So everything the public sector has in a digital form, except those things that are secret because of national security, or the considerations of businesses or individual physical persons. That is basically PSI. And then the last bullet is, of course, the directive exemption for data that you're required to pay for. So, what we've got is structured data, as exemplified by an XML document. Unstructured data is completely illegible, but it's actually a list of institutions for further education in Denmark. But it's just plain text. We've got documents. This is Jyske Lov, the first common Danish law that sort of defined Denmark as a country. Audiovisual data. A lot of you probably saw that our Prime Minister did a selfie with Barack Obama. It went around the world anyway. And other digital content such as web pages. And here we've got my Twitter feed, or rather a feed related to me. So it's within all fields, including defense and law enforcement and everything. So that's what we're talking about. And to see the picture, we have a lot of people talk about open data. When I talk about open data, I'm not restricting that to only public sector data. I mean all data that is made available for reuse, including the stuff that Google gives out, the stuff from OpenStreetMaps, the stuff from open corporates, the stuff from anybody, CIA, whoever. And within that, there is, for instance, the CIA data, which, though not European, is essentially public sector information. That's a subset of the open data, because it's open, it's available for reuse by definition, and it's made available by the public sector, by a public organization. In Denmark we also have a definition that's called basic data. And as you see, it's sort of slightly out of the open ball. And that's because some of it isn't open, in fact. We have the base registries, it's called in an ISA context in the EU. Information about physical persons, businesses, buildings, real estate, maps and addresses. Those are covered by a program in Denmark, which I'll cover very shortly in a very high-level way. And most of that data is made available free of charge, but not all of it. Our famous example is sea charts, which are a part of the basic data program, but they're not made available free of charge. Still have to pay for them. So an overview of Danish legislation within PSI, within our area. The basic law in Denmark is the Access to Public Administration Files Act. Nice, simple Freedom of Information Act title, but it is our Freedom of Information Act. That gives the right to see and reuse public sector information, period. And that's why our PSI Act is a quite simple thing, because it just has to fill in a very few gaps within the Freedom of Information Act, such as to, as I put it here, severely limit the conditions that you can put on the reuse of data. Essentially, there's only one condition you can put on Danish PSI data, and that is attribution. No other limitation can be made at all. And as it says there, a few weeks ago we passed the Danish law to enact the revised directive, because we thought we might as well get it done. Again, very few changes because we already had the charging limitations in place. So what we basically did was broaden the scope to cover the cultural institutions that are now covered by the directive, and I do think that is true. I should have said when I started that I'm assuming that you sort of all have a vague idea of what PSI is, or some of you a fairly clear idea. So please stop me if I say something that you don't understand. So we also have, the fun thing is we have a common, as most countries do, we have a national common license. For several reasons, we made our own. Partly to ensure that it fits exactly with the Danish legislative context, partly to make sure that the language was under our control, and partly to address some concerns of public organizations when making data available. I've been doing for a couple of years what we call data hunting. In Denmark, that means that I go out to public organizations and talk to them about how they can make their data more available. And some of the concerns I've met was a fear of their data being used for political propaganda, for instance. The Danish Film Institute, which has data covering all movies made in Denmark since 32 or whenever they started. And some of those films could be used, some of that data could be used in the specific concern was right-wing propaganda. And they were afraid of that. So the license limits the liability of the organizations and says, you're free to reuse this, but the way that the thing you build with our data is your problem. It's your responsibility, not ours. If you change the data in any way, it's not our problem. Of course, the press might think otherwise, but legally, it sort of compartmentalizes and says that we make the data available in the best way we can to the quality that we have them. If there are errors in it, so be it. And whatever you do with it is, as I said, your responsibility. So that's made some people a bit easier. So the Open Data and Innovation Strategy, it's a translation of the abbreviation. The abbreviation was originally from a Danish term. That's why the name might be a bit awkward. Anyway, it's a simple strategy. It's our sort of broad PSI initiative, which of course means that there are absolutely no resources tied to it. But the idea is to make public sector data available as we have it. That means keep it simple. So if you have some data in a spreadsheet, put the spreadsheet on your website. If you have them in XML form, great. If you have them in RDF form, even better. If you have them in PDF, put the PDF on. Usually, you would have them in a slightly more manipulatable way than a PDF. But in some cases, that is the best thing available, and by all means, put it up. The idea being, don't do advanced transformations and reconfigurations of the data beforehand. Do it if there's a demand for it. And as I say, better have a little data out today than make a big project to make everything available in a 4-star open data form in 2 years. Because it's better to have a little today than an unknown quantity in 2 years. You can always do the 2-year Star Wars project. And a very important part of this initiative is very close dialogue with the users. Again, make the data available the way you have it. Just put it on your website, and then listen when people contact you, and either ask for more, or ask for it in a slightly different way, or could we have this compiled somehow? So listen and be constructive, because we have, and a lot of other countries have experience of this actually creating growth with very, very little cost. But an important part of that is to ask for input and to listen to it. And be realistic about what will it cost to do what the people ask you to do. Because it could be completely unreasonable, but it could be very, very reasonable. So we have a lot of contacts with people from individuals who do stuff as private citizens, to smaller to medium-sized businesses, to very large-scale corporations that we collaborate with. So that's the ODIS. The Basic Data Program is quite the other way around. As I mentioned, the base registries of persons, buildings, businesses, and places, you might say. That being the most relevant for this context, of course. And we have these 5 aims of the program. It is a, what was my calculation was about 120 million euro business case, which includes making the data free to use. Because we have had, as many of you probably are familiar with, a bit of a circus of public authorities charging other public authorities for using stuff, and then when those who buy the data get a private actor to do something further with the data, will that private company have to pay as well? And how about when somebody, you get a headache very quickly. So we basically say this data is so central to public administration that there shouldn't be financial limits to the reuse, at least within the public sector. And then, fortunately, I'm from the Ministry of Finance, by the way. My ministry realized that the business case for making it free for everybody is very, very good. I've heard examples from around Europe of public authorities who spent 2, 3, 4 times the revenue they got in from selling data in administering and sending out invoices and stuff, and that's ridiculous. So basically what we're saying is make the core data free of charge, so that people can build services around reliable, good data. And that's the next bullet, make better data. Because I'm sure that's not the problem in other countries, but Danish basic data aren't perfect. I think they've improved quite a bit, but about a decade ago I heard the building, the guys managing the building registry saying that they were expecting that about 10% of their data was correct. I think they've been able to improve quite considerably on that, but we have a lot of inaccuracies. I've been involved a little bit with some of the building and address stuff and figured out that, oh, well, so suddenly we're missing 77,000 addresses where there are actual flats, but the addresses don't exist. And weird things like that. So we have got a big initiative to make the data better and more reliable. That makes for a more efficient administration, because we don't have to roll back and correct errors that originate in the basic data. We can do a lot more things automatically without having to again roll back a lot of decisions, and so on and so forth. So there's a really good business case for making the data as good as at all possible. We have also worked on improving the linkability of data. Currently we have in our building registries, sorry to keep bringing that one up, we have 3 different globally unique identifiers for a building or a housing unit. A year ago the responsible authorities decided on which one of the 3 to carry forward and use as the one unifying. So they are currently rebuilding their systems to incorporate this in, and of course they have encountered heaps of problems where it doesn't quite fit and you have to tweak it a bit or add a bit or do stuff. But one thing that I really love about this program is that there is a very, very strong sense of commitment and ownership and collaboration from all parties. This involves more than 5 ministries, and everybody's pulling together on this. Everybody knows, everybody gets the idea that if we have good, common, accessible, connected public core data, then we can do a lot better as a public sector, and we can enable the private sector to make great new services and make money. My personal project is the 4th bullet, improve distribution. I'm working on buying tomorrow night, inshallah. We will be signing the contract for a common distribution platform for all of this data, so that you don't have to go to 4 different authorities to get it anymore. You can go one place and get it all, or all the key of it. And then there's also improved governance, because of course when you link everything together, you increase the interdependencies, or at least you make them more visible. And that means that we also have a great effort in managing this and managing it across, as I said, 5 or more ministries that have to agree in different constellations about the services to provide and the changes to data that are needed. If someone changes the format of the address, for instance, because as it is now, the Central Person Registry has address data directly. They have their own address repository, which of course is not consistent with the common address repository directly, and which of course again is not linked or compatible with the business registry's address data. So we have a lot of addresses floating around that are not consistent. In the future we will only have addresses here, and the addresses related to where persons live and where businesses are located will be as pointers to those addresses, IDs of the address. That of course means that if you change the address format here, you automatically change it in the others. And that means higher interdependency, and that means that we have to work better together. So that was actually basically what I set out to do. Let's see. Oh, sorry. Took a bit longer. One nice thing I promised to do was to plug our international newsletter from the agency. We write about a lot of topics, one of them being the basic data program. There are a few links here if you're interested, and you can read about Otis and the basic data program and our other initiatives at the agency at our homepage. So, do we have time for a few questions? Or?
I think we do.
Yeah. If anybody has any, of course, or comments. Yeah.
Are you able to post the directions for where your business cases are?
Short answer, no. I haven't seen the business cases in a legible form, I'm afraid. Our business case model is incredibly complex. The business case is not made available publicly, of course. We have the gist of it is in the brochure we made for the basic data program, which is available in English at the website. But the basic thing is that we can save something like 15 million euro a year on distribution, isolated. We can save probably about the same, as far as I recall, in improved administration, reduced administration costs from the improvement of the quality of the data. So that's about the same size business case. We do not have a business case for the private side. We have absolutely no idea what creative people will come up with. You will hear some of it later this afternoon. The Denmark and Minecraft presentation. Partly, that project partly grew out of the basic data program because the last pieces of data they needed for that were made available by the basic data program, or made free, I should say. So the full business case is very, very complex. Probably outdated to 60% by now because it's 2 years old. But the gist of it is available. And the basic thing is we save a lot by having a more efficient distribution, and we save quite a bit by being able to do our business, the public sector business, more efficiently.
Is your distribution cost basically defrayed by having a single point where you go and get data? Is that basically your
well, the basic saving is that we have some very expensive distribution solutions at the moment. Some are quite cheap. We have 5, as far as I recall, different channels right now, and a couple of those are quite expensive. So we foresee expect quite high savings by being able to cut those down.
I could talk to you the rest of the week about this, Adam. I'm trying to restrict it to one thing. Talk to me a bit more, please, about your identifiers and the choices you made and how you implemented.
Well, it's basically sort of elect the Pope method. Get the relevant people into a room and lock the door until they agree. I was quite shocked, actually, that the building identifier issue was resolved so quickly. Because I've seen reports of commissions and working parties and whatever that have looked into this before and tried to find a solution. The key factor here, as I see it, is the window of opportunity. There is a very, very strong sense here that we have a window of opportunity now to do things right. And everybody really wants to do things right. And that means that people were very, very willing to compromise. And they have been throughout this so far.
And your IDs are simple strings, or are they URIs, or?
They are, as I recall, they're simple strings for now. We are planning a URI type. No, that's not true. That's a UUID. No, we don't have URIs as the basic identifiers.
Can you stick your IDs on the end of a URI stub to give
Yes.
you a resolver one? Right. And you have a resolver? Do you plan to have one?
We plan to have a resolver. That's part of the common distribution platform, actually, to have a linked data part of it, and to have that whole side of.
So you're getting it signed tonight, so by Friday it'll all be done?
Tomorrow night we'll
Tomorrow
sign.
night, so Friday, maybe next week.
Nah, middle of next year,
Yeah, okay, cool.
actually. June 29th, 2015 is the target date for the delivery of the platform. And we have another year to build the services on it. Because there are quite a few services, and quite a few of them have to be rewritten.
I'm not asking you for confidential information, except I am. You're going to sign a contract with someone to deliver a platform that does 101 things, including, I mean, is that, are you going to use open standards on that? Are you going to be vendor locked in? Are you looking at components you can swap and get little SMEs to come in and build stuff, or is it one big, humongous IBM?
We're trying to be as open as possible.
Right.
We are open standards based. We are a lot of the components used are open source. Not that that was a parameter in the choice. We wanted the best possible platform, and that was at the best possible price, and that turned out to be a quite largely open source solution. And we will own. The public sector will own the software that is developed for it. We will not own the servers that it runs on. So it's sort of as a service thing that we're buying. That means that we should be able to transpose it to a different operator at a later point. But let's see how that goes, because a lot of us have tried that.
Different country?
Oh yeah, yeah, no problem. I mean, the whole geospatial part of it, we basically, now I'm getting a bit nerdy, sorry. The distribution platform is split into two halves, basically. One half being significantly larger than the other. That being the geospatial part. That is based on open source Inspire implementation software, which means that, yes, it should be copyable. Again, those things are never trivial, but it should give other countries a head start if they want to build something similar.
England was one last question.
Yes.
Yeah.
I have a question about third-party data. I wonder whether you have considered, or what do you plan to do about the acquisition policy? I mean, just to explain that to myself, I'm working at Joint Research Center of European Commission, and we have a lot of third-party data, for instance, satellite images, that we cannot release because they are covered by. So the point is that this data has been used to create other data that's been used for policy making, for instance. So the issue is, okay, if you want to be transparent, and we would like also to give the opportunity to track back from within the policy decision process all the workflow for the creation of data and so on, we should be able to open up this data. So what we're trying to do now is to find a consistent data policy at JRC that covers also the data acquisition. So trying to negotiate as much as possible open license in order to be able to then use as much as possible data. I wonder whether you in Denmark you also considered this issue, how you addressed it.
We have considered it because we have similar issues, of course. I think most people, most countries do to some extent, because it's always a balance between price and ownership.
Yeah.
That we can get the data a lot cheaper if we don't own it. And we encourage that the public sectors ensure that they get the IPR for the data. But it's a very soft policy because there are a lot of factors to consider. And usually it's a very individual assessment in the end. And as I mentioned, I'm from the Ministry of Finance. And our chief goal in the world is to reduce the numbers in the national budget. certainly on the expenses side. So we don't actively pursue a policy of acquiring the rights, but we do sort of quietly encourage. It's a matter of us cowboys sometimes getting slightly at odds with the larger scheme of things. So we try to navigate the line there. But I absolutely agree that it is an issue. And it relates very much to the issue I mentioned earlier on, that we were charging each other for the data and limiting reuse and making it was cheaper for people to make copies of data and collect the data themselves than to get them from the authoritative source. And that's pretty much the same issue you get there, that people make weird workarounds, and again, it limits the services that can be provided, and that's not a good thing. So, thank you. If you have anything else, Phil, I'm here all day. We can talk on the breaks and at lunch and stuff. Well, thank you very much, and enjoy the rest of the day.
Okay, thank you, Adam, for your presentation. I think we wanted your presentation to be the first one because you draw the first picture of what PSI is, and I think is something needed before going ahead in the session. Well, my name is Meijueiro. I'm representing the ePSI platform, and I will give you only a brief overview of what ePSI platform, in case that you don't know what it is, and about this whole workshop. Okay, ePSI platform is the official European Commission platform for the promotion of the data reuse, the community around public sector information. It's funded by the European Commission, and it hopes to be the one-stop shop, some sort of, because it has a portal, and also in this portal we have we are reporting news, happenings, and also best practice, like from every member state in the European community, but also from abroad. And we try to engage the community, and this workshop is one of those kind of events to engage the community. You can see that's the address, and this is only a picture of the homepage that you can see what I've said, latest updates of events or news. We also have social media channels like Twitter. We are also on LinkedIn, and we have also videos in Vimeo and also on YouTube. You have a section with the latest blog posts. Anyone can post a blog telling us what's their experience in their country or in a particular sector, like the geographic sector. You can join and submit your question. And we also we begin to see some maps. We have what we call the PSI scoreboard that we tried through a set of indicators to measure the progress in PSI publication and data publication and open data reuse in the whole Europe. But not all this scoreboard not only tries to measure from the side of governments. It also tries to to measure what the own community, the data producers, and also the data consumers are doing around PSI and data reuse. You have access to all indicators, to all the methodology. You can give also your opinion about it, and we will review and try to make change. And it's a crowdsourced tool because you can submit your own information saying, okay, we've seen that you measure this indicator because we have some local events. We had these ones that you didn't notice. Okay, you can tell us and propose a change for the rating in these indicators. That's the URL. As you can see, this is not in the ePSI platform. This is in another website, but it's another map that you can see this faster growing, especially these years of open data initiatives, open data catalogs around Europe. So you can get a lot of data, of geographic data, not only from your country, from Denmark, for instance, but you can go, if you plan to have a business model around data, you can view how many countries and data catalogs you can investigate and see what kind of information they provide you in open formats and are also mostly free. Okay, so we plan this workshop to cover all what we call all the perspective of the data flow, data information. Also from the beginning, the acquisition, the gathering of the information, and the publication in open formats. That's data providers. Also, we have the standardization bodies that are an important part of an important player, because as you see, we are in an Inspire conference, and this was a massive evolution of standards, and that gives the advantage to go to talk the same language, and that those map you saw before of Europe, that you can see that everyone that is following the Inspire standards can rely on the same kind of technical language, and this will ensure that your business model won't fall because of that issues. Then we go on with what we call intermediate product vendors that are some sort of data dealers. We can talk, and service providers for other reusers. And finally, also the organizations that has final products and service for final users that can see in sort of applications, maybe for mobile or web applications. All these kinds of players we try through the portal, through this ePSI portal. We have covered all this by news and events. This is, for instance, some news from data producers, some initiatives that also try to improve the sense of community and to push for developers to work with those kind of data, geographic data, for instance, with these hackathons and so. Also, we have those intermediate players that try to use geographic data to merge it, to mix with another kind of data, like this energy data, and then this can provide a service for also for industries or for installers of energy appliance and things like that. And finally, there was some kind of example that can provide a final service for users. For instance, in education, we have some schools that can use this Minecraft game to engage people and children to know their own territory, their own country, and also involve and engage with the local government to make some plans of building development and so. This was, for instance, another example of a visualization we covered using geographic data, mixing it. That is, I think, the power of open data, mixing it with the pollen, with the data pollen for allergies and things like that, and you can see a map of a city like this, the city where I came from in Spain, at Gijón, and you can see those vertical lines are the trees where are located, are geolocated, and are in open data. You can download it. These colored are the pollen that came in a different column from the different species, and that can give you, and there's a timeline that you can go on further month by month and see in which months there's a more heavy concentration of pollen. This was in an art exhibition, so it has a multiple applications. And we want to introduce you also to other products and standardization bodies. One is shared PSI, that we talked before that standards are important, and we're trying to harmonize and an identification of best practice, and also harmonize this implementation that we've seen that here in Denmark and other countries are beginning with it. And don't forget about the W3C, that is the most important, I think, player in these standardizations of internet. And finally, a map with where are located these offices. So that's all for my side. I want to be a very short presentation because I think the important part of this workshop are our rest of speakers. And now we can begin, if you want, with the perspective of data providers. And I call Ulla Kronborg to, yes, that's it. You can go here and begin with your presentation if you want.
Thank you. Can you hear me? I'm used to educate young people, so I can speak up. If we find it worse, so I guess this. First of all, thank you for the opportunity to come to this very interesting workshop. I think it is so important that we join forces, SDI and the government. Not to brag, but we have tried to do that during at least 10 or 15 years in Denmark. And as you see, 10 or 15 years we arrived with open data. So it takes time. All good wills, but it takes time. Are we running? We're running. Yeah. My name is Ulla, and as you can see, I am head of function in the Geodata Agency. I'm also national contact point for Inspire. I've been working with this SDI and the connection to e-government for quite many years. That does not make me an expert, believe you me. So I was asked to give an overview over what do we do in my agency with the open data, and I will try to do that. I have quite a lot of slides, but most of them are pictures, so we can scroll quite fast. Just to be quite sure, it used to be cadastral. It is now Geodata Agency. Same people, different general director, mostly the same scope. Part of the Ministry for the Environment. We have been there for quite many years and are quite happy there. We have had a bit of changes within the Ministry for Defense or whatever, but now I think we're home. Our responsibilities are, of course, mapping and building the SDI, the national SDI, and the cadastral services. But we have also other tasks, like cooperating quite closely with the Defense, Ministry of Defense, and, as you can see, Inspire responsible, and as well are we going to be operator of the common data distributor, which are part of the basic data program as Adam presented. We have organized following this value chain. This is not new. Many of you have done that for quite many years. We have not in my agency. we were kind of organized in silos for this is land mapping, this is nautical mapping, this is and so on. But we're trying this out now, and it makes good sense, even though it is a bit difficult. I just said that. We based our development of the SDI on collaboration with the different administrative levels. We have a culture of consensus in Denmark. We drink a lot of coffee, we hold a lot of meetings, it takes a lot of time, but when you get the agreements there via consensus, they're quite strong. 7 years ago, the Ministry of Finance realized that SDI was the backbone of e-government, and we went, hooray, it only took us 10 years. So what we did, what we fed into that success was the INSPIRE principles. And the INSPIRE principles are just good common sense, and they can be used everywhere. Everywhere where you digitize, you should follow these principles. Luckily, the Ministry of Finance agreed on that. We fed another thing in coming from INSPIRE, and that's the whole basic data, the reference data thought. We use this, I've seen many other ways of visualizing this, and it's all about reuse. And luckily, again, the Ministry of Finance could see that there was some good money in this thought. And of course, we had the legislation, the Act on GI, deriving from the INSPIRE directive. And that was a forceful tool as well. So we went open. Open in the SDI sector and open in the e-government with the basic data program. Just to let you know that maps and geography, which you didn't mention, Adam, is quite important. I mean, it underpins the whole thing, doesn't it? And finding these basic data, geography and maps, we of course used INSPIRE, and mainly the Annex 1. But the Geodata Agency took it a bit further, because we thought, well, if a pool of our data is going to be open, and some are not, no, we're going 100% free. And so did the municipalities. And why did they do that? Well, mainly because we, for like 10 years, have been mapping commonly. Instead of first, the government set up an aeroplane to fly the whole area, and then afterwards 2, 3, or 4 municipalities send up airplanes to fly the exact same area. That made no sense. So we have this common mapping. So we agreed on letting loose and letting free our topographical SDI data. So there's no business in charging. No, it costs too much to administrate a small pool. So out was the cat of the bag. And what happened when we freed our data? This is numbers from our map supply, our digital map supply. And of course it skyrocketed when the thing hit the fan. And in numbers, you can see, we had a huge demand. Maybe these numbers are not much for you. You must recall that Denmark is a small country, only 5 million people. So it was a tremendous increase. And we had like 800 registered users, but within a fortnight or more, we were more than 9,000. That doesn't say much. So who are these people? Who are using them? Why are they coming? Well, we wanted to know the impact of these open data. So we asked for a framework. How can we actually measure the impact, the effect on open data? And we only just recently released a report made by Deloitte. You can see that. There's access to it. It will be, if not, it will be uploaded at the GST website. I have the links later on. So, we also made a user survey on the digital map supply. You have to register as a user. Even though data is open, we would like to track the users. And we would like to have this dialogue, as Adam pointed out, which are so important in order to meet the needs. So we made a user survey. So who are the users, the new users, all these 9,000? Well, as you can see, mainly citizens. Also some increase in enterprises, but mainly citizens. That's a new user group for us in the agency. So we asked them, do you know anything about geodata? And as you can see, most of them did. But we have a pool of almost a quarter entering new territory. 59% found what they searched for. That's not impressive. That's not impressive at all. I mean, if I go to a website to buy shoes, as I did the other day, I want to find it within a minute. So, we asked them, if this data that you achieved now, if you had to pay for that, they said that we wouldn't have gotten it. We wouldn't have taken it. So that gave us something to think about. Meanwhile, this is one of our most happy users. He is Mr. OpenStreetMap in Denmark. And he has for years and years and years asked, give us the data. Please, why do I have to pay for this? We can improve the data by using it. And on the day that we freed our data, we gave him, as you can see, all our data. And he was a happy man. And within 2 days, he has uploaded it all into OpenStreetMap in Denmark. And OpenStreetMap in Denmark is now a very useful and very valid and of high quality because we guarantee that. So, collaboration is a tradition in Denmark, yes. This is the map supply, and as you can see, you can choose Inspire. It's there. We also have a tradition of collaborating quite closely with the private sector. We have this provider partners program connected to the digital map supply. These are just some of them. It's like 8 years old or something like that. With these private providers, we have developed Show the Location, Vis Sted, which is a toolkit, you can say. It's an open API. It's a development, of course, an open data, and it's easy to use. It's a community-based development, and it still works, this community. We were a bit, how can we do this? The private sector, are they going to enter into a community with the government? Are they going to actually open up on their business plans and so on and so forth? And after a bit of trying on each other, we found out that it was very, very beneficial, both for the private sector, who got an insight in where are the actual interfaces with the public sector, and for the public sector, who is getting development knowledge that we didn't have. So, further development on the find the location is find a place, which is actually more visualization of maps, going into mobile devices and so on and so forth. And of course, we use the Inspire data here. We use the basic data to pull in. And it actually works. If you can't find your way around Denmark, you can just try this out on your mobile. It's also used in one of the major e-government citizen services, which is a portal known as Citizen DK. And what does the future look like? Well, one thing that this survey has taught us is that access is not necessarily accessibility. I like to use this, this image of IKEA. As I shop for shoes on the net, I also go to IKEA to buy my furniture. I guess that's very Scandinavian. But one thing about the IKEA is it's so easy. I mean, I want a sofa. I go to the internet. I type sofa. I get a whole range of sofas. I type red, and so on and so forth. Metadata, it works. And when I want to get it brought home to me, I just type that 2 or 3 clicks, and within a couple of days, I have my sofa. Getting data should be equally easy. But as you saw, 59% found what they searched for, but the rest didn't. So we need to think IKEA when we think access. And really, it's all about communication. We learned that. And it's not about communicating in XML or UML schemas, because most of the users that you saw will have no idea of what we're talking about. It's about knowing which channels to reach your users. It's about inviting them in. And it's about having this ongoing dialogue. And relatively reactive is because, well, as a public sector, we also have a budget. So we can't spend it all in going out and inviting people to dance with us. We have to think about the bottom line as well. So it's about selecting where can we actually get the most value. Could it be the health sector that we're focusing on right now and for this next year, or another? So how do we do it? Well, we use the channels, as most of you know, and we collaborate with the Geoform DK, which is the umbrella association of geospatial information in Denmark. And by them, we have a very good channel to the private sector and to the universities. We like the pilots because the pilot shows that all that we're talking about is actually possible. I am at the end now. I have a few last reflections on my own behalf, because I can't see the small and medium-sized enterprises in Denmark. I can't see them operating on open data. We have had one private company, new private company, working on open data. But where are they? There's a huge market in my mind. Is it because we do not connect to the ICT sector? My personal belief is that that may be so. And do we have this old school way of always connecting with those that we know? We go to the same conferences, we write in the same magazines, and we speak SDI with the next XDI fellow. Minecraft might be a good showcase on how to reach other sectors and how to do things that you don't really think SDI can do. And then there's the position of the public sector, of my agency. What are our role in the future? Do we just deliver data in a certain quality, or are we actually going out there to search for new markets? And then the final thing, efficiency in the public sector, which we have to reach. That's part of the business case. Is that actually an opposite to growth? When we say we want standards, when we say we want to reuse, is that actually a growth killer? I think we have to discuss these questions within the community, with the e-government community and the SDI, and the private sector as well. That was it for me. Thank you.
Anyone have any questions for Ulla?
I leave it out before I'm trying to knock out my fellow. Phil Archer, W3C. The comments you made actually, obviously, they reflected a lot of what Adam was saying about usage data, who is using it. So our response to that in the Web Consortium is to, we don't like tracking. We have a whole working group against tracking. We have a culture of the NSA over our dead bodies. And so far they're winning. But, you know, hey. But more seriously, your UK opposite numbers are worried about who's actually using their open data. They put it all out there, who's actually using it. So we're trying to do two things. We're trying to make it easy for people to voluntarily tell you that they're using your data, and to do so in a way that helps their own self-interest, helps make their products more discoverable, which will also then help you see what people are doing to it. But the other thing that we're doing in the same working group, which is called Data on the Web Best Practices, is addressing the issue about SMEs using or not using the data. And one of our co-chairs of that is a guy from IBM. He says, I'm never going to use that. This is IBM, right? They probably built the system that it's on, but they're worried about the licensing, they're worried about the longevity and everything else. And what they're looking for, which I don't think they're ever going to get from the public sector, is the kind of cast iron guarantee that says, you know, this is always going to be here, this is definitely right, this is, and they want a kind of level of commercial guarantee that you can't and no other government is ever going to provide. So we have to try and convince them that actually what you've got there is pretty darn good. We're not going to put ourselves under legal obligation to make sure it is, but you know what? You can do a lot with that. As you say, OpenStreetMap, there's that stuff there. So we're trying to help. But but I think there's also a culture shift, and we have to get the SMEs to actually recognise that what they've got, they can do stuff with.
Yes, yes, I agree. Just to be quite clear, when I say track, we don't track them like like that. And it was a voluntary survey that we did. But you're quite right. It is a dilemma. And yeah, I agree with you on the SMA. I mean, you don't get a better guarantee that things come from the public sector. I mean, we will, I guess, always be there in some kind. So that might be the best guarantee you can get. Yeah.
Any other questions? And we have the video.
Do you hear me? Okay? Yes?
Aquí está.
Emilio López Romero. No, Emilio López Romero. Okay, so good morning. My name is Emilio López. I am the director of the National Center for Geographic Information of Spain. The National Center of Geographic Information is a small organization under the umbrella of the National Geographic Institute in the in the Ministry of Public Works. Our main objective is to distribute, to publish, and to market the products of the National Geographic Institute. We are about 100 employees. The 70% are official servants, and our budget is about 6.6 million of euros. Okay, for all things, to fulfill our objectives and to pay salaries and to get data and so on. Okay. First, I want to say something about the legal framework related to the reuse of information in the public sector. We have a law in 2007, and in 2011 we developed this law with a royal decree and with some interoperability technical rules in order to provide the formats and how to do the electronic documents, the specification of the electronic records, electronic signature, and so on. Okay? This is related to information of the public sector, and in the other hand, we made a law in 2010 to adopt the ePSI directive. Okay, the law on the geographic information services and infrastructure in Spain. In this case, this law is not only to adopt ePSI, but also to establish the National Geographic High Council as the national contact point and the coordinator of the Spanish spatial data infrastructure. Okay, in the National Geographic High Council, there are representatives not only of the departments or at national level, but there are representatives of each autonomous region in Spain. The second thing, we established the National Reference Geographic Equipment. I think that is something similar at Basic Data in Denmark. So we established, but only for geographic information. We established which data are the base of the cartography in Spain. And that is the themes. Control points, coordinate reference system, geographical names, administrative units, and so on. Okay? These data sets are going to have a special treatment in our law and in our data policy. The third issue that this law treats is the use and limitation only for geographic services. Okay, so in general, geographic services are public unless defense, security, personal data issues. Geographical services are public and are free unless for maintenance reason, because it's a very big expensive service, I have a lot of cost to maintain it. So you can ask to pay for them, but in this case it's mandatory to provide an e-commerce service. Unless it's possible to avoid the use of data that are obtained via a view service. That means that if you have, for example, orthophotos or satellite images, and someone asks for a very big PNG or a very big GPH and publish in a website, perhaps you can avoid this type of use. But in general, geographic service, and it's true, it's a reality that the view services are free and public in Spain. Okay, as I mentioned before, we have two types of products, of geographic information products. The National Reference Geographic Equipment, that is open data. Okay, they haven't licensed, or it's a license very similar to Creative Commons by, and the rest of our data. This data, topographic database, images, raster maps, and so on. These data sets are open data for non-commercial purpose. Okay, you can download it. We will see later. And the license is more or less Creative Commons by no commercial purpose and share alike. Okay. Well, I think that it is very important when we talk about open data. We have to talk about how to maintain it. So it's very important talk about money. Okay. So for us, this year, this is our business model about the incomes that we expect to get it. As you can see, the 64% of our incomes are provided by the government. Okay, 21 through contracts, because there are other institutions that hire us to produce data like LiDAR or orthophotos and so on. The 8%, I think that it's incredible, selling maps on paper. Okay, so but nowadays it's incredible the amount of paper that we are able to sell. 5% projects at national, European, and international level. For example, the European Local Framework, a lot of astronomy projects. And finally, 2% in training. I think that we have a very good learning courses, and we sometimes are contract to give advice and suggestion to another organizations, most of them in South America. Okay, so it's important to know that this is the way that we are getting money for our organization. Okay, how is this business model evolving? So the sale of paper maps are decreasing, of course. Okay, we have about 25 shops spread in the whole territory of Spain, but they are selling less and less. The sales of digital information is decreasing too. Why? Because, well, I don't know why, but a few years ago we sell a lot of information, for example, to Google or to Garmin, but I think that they have it, they are updating themselves, and they don't need us anymore. Okay, so we are not getting money. Okay, but there are a lot of people downloading our information. The contract for training, consultancy, data production, even development, some applications are growing. The participation in international projects are increasing, and unfortunately our government has decided year after year decreasing our budget. Okay, that is true. Open data, but decreasing our budget. Okay. Okay. So, but I think that this is very important that you can see that selling data, even digital data, is not a way to get money. Okay, but services, projects, training, consultancy, this is the way that we are increasing our incomes. Okay, so it makes me think that perhaps an open data is a good way to get more money. Okay, not selling data, but the service around this data. Okay. As you can see, I'm very concerned about money. Okay. So the next way to save money is to reduce your costs. Okay. So I want to show you some collaborative projects that we are using to reduce the way to get our data. Some is the National Plan for Territorial Observation. I think that in 2006 we decided to share the cost of to get orthophotos, not only orthophotos, but satellite images and the land use. So the central government pay 66% of the orthophotos, and the autonomous regions pay the 34%, depend on the size of their territory. Okay, so now we are flying only once time, and we share the cost of this. In fact, the United Nations give us an award for public service to get to improve the use of our resources. A second sample is Cartociudades, like Cartocity. Okay, and it's a collaborative project in which the IGN, the National Geographic Institute, the Cadastre Statistical Postal Office Department are cooperating in order to get a road network compliant with inspired specifications and connected with the street maps. Okay, and not only we are providing the data set, but the view, download, and several geoprocessing services. ISPAR compliant. Okay, so now I would like to show you our data download center. Okay, since 2007, we are providing our data sets using this website, but you have some restrictions because we thought that we weren't able to offer these services open because our infrastructure and our equipment. So you have to register in the data download center. You have to log in, and you only can get one file each time. Okay. In fact, sometimes there are people that attack our services, our FTP services behind this website because they don't want to wait for one file and so on. Even sometimes they call us, hey, I can use your FTP, and I say, but the FTP is not public, okay? But we are thinking to open or to be more flexible and to let people get more than one file each time. As in Denmark, the amount of files that are downloaded every year is growing. Okay, the number of files and the number of gigabytes. Okay, and related to Inspire, we have done some steps. We have adapted our services, view services, discovery, and download services to the technical guidance for the implementation of Inspire services. Okay, all our data are available, public and free, using view services. All our metadata have been transformed to be conformant with Inspire specifications and are public and free using the discovery service. And we are nowadays working in the Atom plus OpenSearch and WFS services. In this case, we have some of them, but the data, unfortunately, are not Inspire compliant. Okay, only for geographical names, administrative units, addresses, and transport network at 100,000 scale. So nowadays we are working, trying to transform our data to be conformant, and then we will be able to offer WFS and Atom with these data sets. Only 3 slides more. I think that that's very important. We are providing through our catalog, the metadata of our catalog. We are providing metadata for the Spanish open data website using RDF metadata of our catalog according to TCAT profile. We are using GeoNetwork as our software for discovery service, and I think that in the release 2.10 you can extract directly RDF files, and with a small transformation you can integrate it in our portal, in our Spanish open data portal. finally, two samples about organizations that are using our services. In this case, is the Ministry of Industry. They have to publish every day the cost of the petrol in every petrol station. So they have a geoportal with this viewer, and the map in the background is provided by our services. In fact, I think that they are using more our services with our information than their own information, because to draw only some icons is very cheap. To draw a map at 25,000 scale of all Spain and the orthophotos is more expensive. Okay. A second sample is this is a website for hiking and for biking and so on. It's a private website, and they are using our maps to draw these roads. Okay. But unfortunately, we don't have the statistic that you have in Denmark. We don't know a lot about the 90% of our users. Okay, if the user is not using a web viewer or are using an application for mobile device or a GIS desktop software, we don't know nothing about them, because in our statistics, in our servers, this information is not recorded. Finally, our next steps to improve data policy. Okay, we have our basic information is open data, but we think that because we are not selling a lot, we can afford to open more data, perhaps at small scales, less than 25,000. I think, like you, Ulla, that we have to fill the gap between our services and the developers, but not people, not developers or specialized in geographic information, but all type of developers. We are trying to make an API to build components, to improve the relationship with private sectors, with companies that are providing now viewers using Google Maps or using other type of software, or other, not other type of software, but other type of services that we can think that they can use our open services. We have done some pilots about linked data, but not very fruitful and without continuity. And I think that our point of view is very important, the last one. Instead of thinking in open data, we are thinking in open services. Okay? So, for example, when an organization come and tell me, hey, Emilio, we need all your topographic maps because we want to draw or to place our hotels or our shops or our roads in an app for mobile devices. I say no. Use my open service. Use my view services. I can help you. I can give you advice, but only if it's strictly necessary. I am going to give you all my information. Okay, use my services, and that's all.
Anyone have any questions for Emilio?
yes. Well, yes, now we don't allow people, I think that by URL. So a URL only can get file per file, okay? But sometimes when I told you that they call me, it's a public organization. They are telling me, I'm trying to pirate your FTP service. So, but I think that in the next year we are going to change our policy and we are going to open our services and not with FTP services but with telephone.
Any other questions? One here from
Yeah. Thank you for a very interesting presentation, Emilio. You touched upon this this new task that the agencies are having, and you said selling data is not a big issue anymore. We experienced that. But then you said the services around these data. And I'm going to ask you, is that competition with the private sector? What do you think?
Well, I think that there are perhaps several levels. Okay, so perhaps we are, for example, we are offering view services. Okay, I think that is the role of our organization, and perhaps the private. But I think that view services is very far from the citizens, very, very far. Even sometimes from the IT developers. So I think that this gap can be filled. Perhaps we can offer an API. Perhaps it's a public sector issue, but I think that they have to add value at our services. Okay. But I think it's not a clear line between when finish the public service and when start the tax of the private sector.